Hello everyone, I'm here with my September wrap-up. I read 4 books and a graphic novel in September, so let's talk about them. So the first book that I read in September was Volume 2 of Paper Girls, and I didn't really like it. I gave it 3 stars because I didn't think it was bad, and the artwork was good. It just wasn't for me. So I feel like I don't know. I gave it 3 stars. It was okay, but I don't want to continue with it. I didn't really like the first volume, and I thought I would give it more of a chance and see if I liked where the story was going, and I just don't like the way the story moves. Like, I don't like how things are being revealed and progressing. Like, it's very fast with very little explanation, so it's like confusing, but to me not in a fun, interesting way that makes me want to learn. I'm just frustrated. So, unfortunately that was a fail for me, but I still gave it a 3-star because, again, like I said, I feel like it just is not for me. I still feel like the artwork was really well done, and the story's, like, interesting, but not to me. So anyway, well, let's move on. The next book that I read was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, which I have been really hesitant to pick up. Not that I was, like, worried about it or anything like that. I just wasn't interested in it. I didn't think it sounded good. And then my friend read it, and she told me what it was about, and I guess I never really knew specifically what it was about. I just knew that it was about the Grisha army, and she was like, not really. And she explained it, and it sounded really good. And in case any of you haven't read it and would like to know, it's about a girl who is an orphan, and she grows up thinking that she is nothing special. She's just a regular human being. She's not Grisha. It's a Grisha, right? She grows up thinking that she's not a Grisha, which is someone with magical abilities. And then she finds out accidentally she's got, like, one of the most powerful sought-after abilities of them all. And so this, like, mysterious good-looking guy wants to use her to help save the world, but then there's all this other bad stuff happening. So it was really good. And what I liked about it was how quick and easy it was for me to read. I read this in 24 hours, maybe even less than 24 hours. I started reading it on, like, a Sunday evening and finished it on a Monday evening. So it was just super light. Like, it's a fantasy story that takes place in a world that does not exist. And it was not heavy or dense or confusing. It might have been not confusing because I already understood the Grishaverse because I've read Six of Crows. So that might be part of it. But I just felt like the writing was very simple and quick and light and easy, but still really good. Like, it was entertaining. It was just super entertaining, and I really enjoyed it. I gave this 4.5 stars. And I have since purchased the second book, but haven't read it yet. But I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. The next book that I read was Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, which I loved, and I gave 5 out of 5 stars. There was a little portion, maybe like a third of the way through, that I was not really enjoying it, and I was getting really frustrated. And I don't think it was the story. I think it was me, because one of the things that was really frustrating me, because I thought it didn't make any sense, later on in the story, it just, like, clicked in my brain, the reason for what was happening, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. Why didn't I think of that earlier? So I feel like the little chunk that I wasn't enjoying was just me and what was happening in my life, and I was having trouble focusing and enjoying certain things. So the rest of it was great. I loved the atmosphere and the writing and the characters. So in case you didn't know what Sorcery of Thorns is about, it's about this girl named Elizabeth who is an orphan. It's a theme in this. Also, every single love interest in the books that I read in September had gray eyes. All of them. So I thought that was interesting. But anyway, so Elizabeth is an orphan, and she has grown up being an apprentice to be, I can't remember what they're called now, but they're basically librarians of grimoires. And she's grown up to believe, and she's taught, that magic and sorcery is evil, and they're keeping grimoires safe in different libraries so that people can't just, like, you know, use their magic willy-nilly. And there are different levels of dangerous grimoires because they can come to life. So one of the dangerous grimoires ends up coming to life and killing someone, and so Elizabeth kills it. But then the sorcerers are like, you killed our only grimoire of this kind, and that's a crime, so you have to come with us and go on trial. But then it's not really about that anymore because of other things that come up, and there's lots of twists and turns and, like, interesting, sinister secrets and stuff like that. And I really loved the love interest. First of all, I thought he was hilarious. I loved Nathaniel. He was great. And then he has his demon friend, Silas, and he is also wonderful. He's just, I was about to say he's a wonderful human being, but he's not. He's a demon. He's a wonderful human demon. And I loved the atmosphere and the writing. It felt very magical and whimsical, and I loved the characters. And I loved the ending. Like, the very, very, very last ending. Like, the last, like, 2 sentences was the greatest. And I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Oh, it was great. And the last book that I read in September was The Light Between Worlds by Laura Weymouth. Yep, I'm right. And I adored this book. I loved it so much. It's kind of like, I want to say, it's like a cross between A Great and Terrible Beauty and Chronicles of Narnia. Like, I don't even know. Those were just the 2 books that it reminded me of, the writing style and what's happening. So, it's about 2 sisters and a brother in World War II who end up going to a magical world. And they're there for 5.5 years and then come back. And the story takes place 5.5 years after they've been back. So, they've been back now the same amount of time that they were gone. And it actually follows 2 different people, the 2 sisters. The first half of the book follows one sister, and the second half of the book follows the other sister. So one of the sisters is having a really, really, really hard time being back in the real world, and she wants nothing more than to go back to the magical world, which was called the Woodlands. And it's just a very calm and quiet story. Like, it's not plot-based at all. It's definitely a character-based story. So there's not, like, this big climax that you're working towards or anything like that. It's just a very calming, whimsical, sad, comfy story. Like, I thought it was so comforting and quiet and calming. Like, those were, like, just all the words. Like, it was just so cozy. And it was sad because one of the sisters is depressed being back. So there's a lot of, like, sad thoughts and some sad things that happen. But there's also, like, flashbacks of when they were in the magical world, and there's, like, when they're in the magical world, there's such magical things. I need to think of better words to use. Like, such wonderful, whimsical things. Like, there's tree spirits, and there's stalking stags, and, like, all that wonderful stuff. And then when she's at a boarding school, when she's not in the Woodlands, and she talks about all the different things in the woods and, like, around the dormitories and all the kind of things that remind her of the Woodlands. And it was just a really, really nice story, and I got lost in it so easily, and I absolutely loved it. And I gave this 5 stars. So those are the books that I read. I feel like I rambled a lot, and it's going to be hard for me to edit this. So I hope you enjoy. And I guess that's all. Bye! And I have since purchased the second book, but haven't read it yet. But I tell you, because there's, like, twists and turns. But the characters... My cat is just being an asshole. Ugh!